Hello, I'm back. Where have I been? I've been moving. Yeah. So today I'm going to be doing my October wrap up. We are in December. I'm filming this on December 5th, and we're filming my October wrap up. All right, so first let's go through some stats. So for the month of October, I read a total of 10 books. That was 1,717 pages, 37.02 hours listened, and I did have 2 DNFs. The formats of the books, I read 3 physical books, 5 audiobooks, and 2 books on my Kindle. For the genres, I had 1 dark romance, 6 fantasy/romanices, 0 sci-fi, so I don't know why I said that, 2 thriller and horror books, and then 1 romance. My average star rating for this month was a 3.3. Also, there is a house being built right next to us. If you hear any like construction noises in the background, I'm sorry, but that's going to be happening for a while. Now let's quickly talk about the books that I DNF'd so we can just kind of get those out of the way. The first one is Losers by Harley LaRue. I DNF'd this at 30%. This was, I believe, my 3rd time trying to read this book. I just didn't care, honestly. I didn't like the dynamics between all of our characters. This is a why choose romance. This one just wasn't doing it for me. I have enjoyed Harley LaRue's books, however, so I think it's just this one that I didn't like, which is sad because this is a very loved book. The next book that I DNF'd was Realm of Lore and Lies. I don't remember the author of this, but I did DNF this at 25%. Now the first, I want to say 5 chapters, so interesting. I loved the folklore aspect of this one. Our main character too, I really loved reading from her perspective. There were new characters that were introduced that I just didn't feel a connection to, and I didn't really have a good understanding of where the book was going. What is the plot of this book supposed to be? And it's a relatively short book as well, so I just felt like for what it was trying to do, I didn't think it was going to give that to me. I don't know if that makes sense. All right, now let's actually get into the books that I read and completed in October. We're going to start from the books that I rated the lowest all the way to the books that I rated the highest. All right, so the first book that I read, and again, I'm going off of my phone, so if I'm looking down, that's why. The first book I read was Married to the Monster by Sarah Spade. I read this on my Kindle and I did give it 2 stars. I think I got this when I was really into reading monster romance at the time, which I still do enjoy monster romance. They're fun. Now with this book, we're following our main character. Don't remember her name. I don't remember any of their names, so that's fine. She gets this magical book from someone, I think a friend maybe, who owns this library and gives her this book, and it's in this different language. She finds a spell in the book that's for a love spell, and she's like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? She starts doing this spell and out comes this demon of hell. They don't speak the same language, but essentially he's like, you're my fated mate. we're supposed to be together. And she's like, I'm terrified of you. So sorry, but you're staying in that circle that I drew and you're not coming out of there. And he's like, but you're just so beautiful and I just want to love on you. It was fun. But again, towards the end, it just it was trying to be deeper than I think it was, which is, it's a fun monster romance, but we're spending too long on this book. Let's move on. The next book I read was You Deserve to Know by Aggie Blum Thompson. I listened to this as an audiobook on Libby, and I did give this 2.5 stars. Now, the reason I gave this such a low rating is I was really lost and confused, and it just kind of took me almost, honestly, I don't even want to say till the end. It was the entire book that I was getting characters confused with different characters, and I'd be like, wait, who is this person? I thought this person was married to this person. No, there's 3 female main characters. 3 female main characters, and I kept getting them confused with each other. And then the husbands, I kept getting them confused with the other husbands. So this could have been a me problem, and it's very likely that it was. But I was just so confused. Towards the end, I had a better idea of who was who, and I would have to pause and be like, okay, so that's this person and this is this person. I just wasn't satisfied with the ending either. I thought it was completely over the top and just kind of silly. This is basically a domestic thriller. There's this friend group, so there's these 3 wives and these 3 husbands, and they're all friends. Someone dies. People in the friend group are trying to investigate, and they're also blaming each other for this death. The police don't really know what happened, even though they are currently investigating it. So I do like domestic thrillers. I think they're entertaining to read about. This one, I was confused, and again, could have been me. This was probably a me problem, but I didn't love it. The next book that I read was The Frost Queen's Blade by Meg Smitherman. I read this on my Kindle and I did give it 3 stars. This was an enjoyable read. This was just a fun little fantasy. Conspiracy lurks in the realm of Rothan. No one knows this better than Elma Volta, soon to be queen of the Frozen Kingdom. But as she awaits her coronation, Elma narrowly escapes death at the hands of an enemy assassin. Realizing she has few choices and even fewer allies, Elma Elma offers the assassin a deal. If he can keep her alive until she takes her rightful place on the throne, she will bring peace to their warring lands. An uneasy alliance forms between Elma and the sharp-tongued assassin, but what started as mutual hatred and resentment soon begins to evolve into something else entirely, something aching, desperate, and blazing hot. The next book is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I did read this physically and I gave it 3 stars. This is a book that I got from Book of the Month. This is a thriller/horror book. I just really enjoyed it. The character, our main character that we're following, I really enjoyed reading from her point of view. The haunting elements in this were genuinely spooky, and the ending surprised me. I was actually very satisfied with the ending. It was unexpected. I haven't read a book that I think kind of takes that route, and it was intriguing. I enjoyed it. Now, I feel like I'm going to butcher trying to describe what this book is about, so we're gonna go and we're gonna read the summary together again. And I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names. I read these in October. Okay, I read these in October, so cut me some slack, please. Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer, but beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not-so-glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother Alex moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon, or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember, or what the courts determined when they stripped Alex of her custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. Now, after Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for house-flipping content. Only as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface and Cleo finally reads her mother's books, the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. It was just a really quick read, and I kept wanting to turn the page. This was a good one. 2 thumbs up for me. Oh, look at my nails. They're like Christmas tree inspired. Can you see there's little sparklies on it? The next book that I read was Worthy of Fate by A.N. Caudle or Caudell. I listened to this as an audiobook and I did give it 3 stars. This was a really fun fantasy/romantasy. As I sit with it, it's really more of a 3.5, maybe 3.75. I loved our characters in this one. In fact, I loved it so much that I did buy a special edition copy of this on Pango. Also, this book is now being traditionally published, so we are going to be getting new covers for it, which is super exciting. So if you are interested in this book, you can currently purchase the indie published copies, I believe. The audiobook, however, is really, really good. I loved our narrators. They did a great job. Again, I'm so afraid I'm gonna butcher the summary of this, so we're going to actually go off of Goodreads again, and we're gonna talk about it. The gem marked by the gods, Kaya is forced to partake in a trial for a chance to be deemed worthy. If she succeeds, she'll be gifted great powers. If she fails, she could lose her life or worse. But that's only the start of her worries. Now the same plague that took her home is spreading and threatening the fate of the realm. That was a hard sentence for me to say. Can Kaya survive the trial of the gods and gain the needed power to rid the world of the growing threat before it's too late? Or will she be drawn to what awaits her in the shadows? The Shadow Riker has waited a long time for her, his mate. Now he's found her. He plans to claim what is rightfully his, but dark forces threaten to destroy his nation should he embrace the bond he so desperately desires. Overall, I did really enjoy this book, so I definitely recommend if you're looking for a new fantasy, but again, please keep in mind the second book does not come out till I believe later in 2026. The next book that I read, I listened to this as an audiobook, and it is a novella. This is Love and Other Killers by Brynne Weaver. I love this series. The first book at least follows 2 serial killers, and they kill bad people, and they're both intrigued by each other, and they come up with this game of who can have the most kills. The audiobook is definitely good. Definitely good. The next book that I read was The Ending Fire by Sarah L. Arifi. I listened to this as an audiobook and I did give this 4 stars. This is the final book to the Ending Fire trilogy. I am going to read the summary of this because I just don't want to butcher anything, because this is a really great series. Scylla dreams of days growing up in the Resistance, being told she would spark a revolution that would free the Empire from the red-blooded ruling class's tyranny. That spark was extinguished the day she watched her family murdered before her eyes. Honora has been told she's nothing, no one, a disappointment, by the only person who matters, her mother, the most powerful ruler in the Empire. But when Scylla and Honora meet, a fire burns between them that could consume the kingdom and their hearts. Hassa moves through the world unseen by upper classes, so she knows what it means to be invisible, but invisibility has its uses. is. It can hide the most dangerous of secrets, secrets that can reignite a revolution. When she joins forces with Scylla and Anur, together these grains of sand will become a storm. The stage is set for blood to flow, power to shift, and cities to burn. It's so good. It's so good. I love Hassa so, I love all of our characters. I love Scylla. She's a very conflicted character. She's questioning kind of who she is and what she's supposed to do and what she wants to do at all times. And then we have Anur, who's this very soft and gentle soul who is facing kind of her own battles within herself. And then we follow Hassa, who I love Hassa so much. And she is just this, I don't even know how to describe her. If you're looking for a new dystopian or some sort of political fantasy, this is a really great one. The next book that I read was Soul Searching by Lila Sage. I listened to this as an audiobook and I did give it 4.5 stars. This was such a fun romance with just like a sprinkle of spookiness. So our main character, she was a photographer and something happened, so now she is going back to her hometown where her family's thrift store / home is at risk of being bought out. And so she goes back to her hometown. She ends up renting a place from this guy who's an upholsterer, and they have a really hilarious first encounter. Our main character, she has this little secret, and the secret is that she can see ghosts and communicate with them. However, she's been having trouble communicating with them lately. There's something that's kind of blocking that connection. And there are a lot of ghosts in the house that she's renting. They're always just kind of there and they're watching, or they're like doing little things to kind of mess with her. And these are ghosts that she used to be able to communicate with when she lived there previously. It was just really fun and kind of entertaining and kind of sad also to kind of see this change that has happened. One thing I really loved about this book too was that each of the spirits kind of had their own personality and their own backstory, and they were really great characters. It's definitely a slow burn, but when things picked up towards the end, we got some really sweet little spicy scenes, and I did enjoy that. I wish we could have gotten to know a little bit more about our main male character. We were kind of just getting from his perspective what he thought of our female main character instead of getting to know more of him. But overall, I still really enjoyed this. I listened to the audiobook and it was great. The next book that I read was My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I read the physical book of this and I gave it 4.5 stars. This was a perfect book to read for October. So if you're looking for just a silly paranormal romance, this is a great one. We're following our main character as she's looking for a room to rent. She stumbles across this like deal of a lifetime where it's this really great apartment and she can rent a room from it for almost dirt cheap and in a really great area. And she's kind of suspicious. She's like, why are you a serial killer? Like, why are you renting this so cheap? As she meets the guy that's renting the room, he's odd, and she doesn't get like a weird vibe from him as far as like he's a serial killer, but just something about him, his essence and who he is just odd. He dresses like a character from like a Victorian novel. He speaks like a character from that time. I mean, he's a vampire, but she doesn't know that yet, obviously. Okay, the next and last book that I did give 5 stars is Spells, Strings, and Forgotten Things by Brianne Randall. I read this physically, I gave it 5 stars. This was such a beautiful book. There's a lot I feel like that goes into such a short story, but it's done so well that it really like holds your attention the entire time. And at least for me, I felt deeply connected to each character and I cared what was going to happen. It's also a very small town cozy fantasy, which I usually don't do cozy books, but this one had just like the right amount of kind of suspense, of just things happening that kept me interested, but it had those cozy elements. And it was also written very well where I could like perfectly picture and imagine things happening, which for me, I actually really struggle with picturing things. But this one, it was so good. I'm going to read the summary because I'm so afraid of leaving anything out or forgetting anything. In the small town of Gold Springs, Calliope Patridi and her 2 sisters carefully guard the secret of their magic and the price they must pay to practice it. Memories. Luckily, all Calliope wants to do is forget. Forget the mother who left them without a trace. Forget the cracks in her relationships with her judgmental older sister, Talia, I don't know, and her distant middle sister, Eurydice. When I read this, I didn't read it out loud, so I never had to say their names out loud. She wants to forget about the very cost of her magic, and most of all, forget the way the love of her life shattered her heart 2 years ago. But when an ancient evil awakens in their town, the fragile thread that holds the sisters together breaks. As their magic slowly begins to fade, Calliope accidentally binds herself to an annoyingly handsome leader of a rival coven infamous for their ruthless pursuit of power. Battling a sizzling chemistry to a man she can't trust, Calliope needs to confront her sisters and the painful memories of her past, dark family secrets, and ancient magic in order to keep the town and all she loves safe. Will she have anything left of herself? That is it. That is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm just happy to be back. I think I'm gonna probably film another video soon. I have to film my November wrap up as well, so I'm probably gonna get to that when I get to that. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.